So if you've ever thought about buying a truck camper, you're gonna see that there is a lot of options available. You could spend $100,000 on a brand new Northern Light, drive off the lot like a baller, and go camp in that mansion. Or if you wanna save some money, you could spend $40,000 on a 15-year-old camper with leaks and nothing that works. And then there's the third option. You could look to spend $10,000 on less on a camper, hope it doesn't have too many issues, and it would pay to be a handyman or handy woman in this situation, someone who knows how to fix a thing or two. I went with the third option. I looked for a cheaper camper. I didn't want to spend $50,000. I found this 1979 Caveman camper, and when I first bought it, I thought it didn't have too many issues compared to some of the campers that I saw on the market at the time. But the problem is, I'm not a handyman, nor a handy woman for that matter. I barely know which end of a hammer to hold. I have switched some light bulbs before and changed a doorknob once or twice, which I'm very proud of, but I'm not the kind of guy who knows how to fix a bunch of things that are wrong with the camper. So I do feel a little bit in over my head. So today we're gonna go over some of the pros and cons of this thing. We've slept in it about 20 nights so far. We've taken it to Banff National Park. We've taken it to Tofino. We have really enjoyed it. So already I feel like it's truly paid off. But I'm gonna show you what's wrong with it. And then you can decide if a city boy desk jockey is gonna have the chops to kind of fix this thing up or not. So let's take a look. One thing I will say is that you really find out the quality of your camper over a winter. I have this thing covered, not like the greatest with this tarp, because I didn't really have a place to put it. Thanks, Zach, for letting me put it at your house. But over winter, you can see where the leaks come out. Luckily, there isn't too many with this thing. But let's dive right into some of the biggest issues that I've found so far with this camper that are making me just skeptical about whether or not I should keep it or get rid of it and swap it for something else that's a little bit easier to maintain. Another big piece of this is just the fact that I have to hoist it on and off my truck, which brings us to the first issue with this camper. So I would say one of my biggest concerns with this thing is getting it on and off the vehicle. These jacks are the old hijacker jacks. I'm sure at the time they were state-of-the-art, incredible, but these things are old. And when I take this thing off the camper, I'm legit terrified for my life the entire time. I'm making sure I'm not on anywhere that thing could fall on me. But if you notice here, but with these guys, these are just really old ones. They're rusted. They're kind of bent. You can see they're bowed a little bit. I actually really wanted to replace these. This would be, if I could simply replace these jacks, I would feel so much better with this thing. But I would actually have to cut this piece of metal that's been welded on here by the previous owner. I don't know what the thought process was with that, why he welded these things on. But they're just so sketch. And every time I try and put it on or take it off, there's some sort of issue with them. I did get them serviced and kind of redone, put new O-rings in them and stuff, but it's just something to be aware of if you are buying a truck camper, is that the jacks are just sketchy. And that's just something you have to live with. Unless, of course, you have electric jacks, which I would love, but they're like $4,000. So that's out of the question for now. So as we make our way inside this thing, there's not actually a ton of exterior issues with this. The only one is these steps are kind of rotting. This is just because, well, this piece of wood's Dunskies, but there is a beam that goes across that could be easily replaced. So I'm really not worried about this. It's just something to note that an old camper is gonna have some rot. So when it comes to the inside of this thing, I actually love it. I think it's really comfy. It's been redone. It's been a little bit like, it's kind of jerry-rigged a little bit, but I love that it's been painted. It's actually pretty comfortable. In terms of living space, it's quite large. It's got this table you can slide in and out. It's got the chairs or the seats. The bed's pretty spacious. So in terms of looks, I'm really not mad about the interior. I actually really think this thing's been comfy. And as I said, we spent about 20 days in it and haven't had any issues camping in the summer. I'm sure winter would be a little bit different of a story. And the third thing that doesn't work on this camper is, yoink, the original heater here. It's like, it's original. I've tried to turn this thing on. The propane and everything is hooked up properly here, but there's this old thing called a thermocoupler, which maybe is a common term if you know anything about fixing anything, that holds is basically like holding the flame for the pilot light. But every time I try and light the furnace, it turns off. I also feel a little bit strange about even using a 40-year-old furnace just for safety reasons. So the heater doesn't work. I'm actually totally fine with that. If I was gonna fix this thing up, I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do. I would just rip it out and just use it for more storage and get a portable heater. Number 4 is the fridge. This thing I believe is original as well. It's kind of falling backwards into the abyss a little bit. It does actually work on city power, so I can plug it in, but it doesn't work on propane. I tried to light the pilot light, which is at the back of the fridge, like back here, which was super annoying. I almost blew my face off, which was pretty sick. So the option with this would be to rip it out and put in another fridge, which I think could be pretty pricey. Even if I got something used, I'd be looking at least $500. I could go new and get one of those cool deep dish Dometic fridges, and then just hook it up to the batteries, but I'm unsure about that. And last but certainly not least is something that every camper owner dreads, and that is the leak. Seems like every camper on the market has some leaks. I know the Northern Lights and the Bigfoots are world renowned to not leak, but anything that is wooden is likely gonna have some leaks. This thing has been resealed. It's actually not too bad, but there are a few spots that are leaking. So I have a couple issues here with the hood fan thing. You can tell there's a little bit of warp going on there. So it's nothing too major. There is one small leak under the seats here. And then this one is also decently manageable. But this stuff is like cardboard now. Just rip it right off. I was trying to show you, but it's actually frozen solid because it's really cold here in Canada. But there's definitely some water getting in there. Doesn't seem to affect anything up here. This is totally fine. So the question really is, how bad are these leaks? How do I deal with them? Who knows? All right, so I think I've ragged on this thing enough. Let's look at some of the positives. One positive is that I'm just glad I didn't spend too much money in this, because it was a really great learning experience to spend, 2 or 3 weeks in this thing over a few trips and learn what we do and don't like about truck campers and what we'd want in a future camper when we do decide to spend a bit more money on one. So the first big pro of this camper is that it actually only weighs about 1,700 pounds, which is decently light for a hard-sided camper, especially an 8-foot camper. It doesn't even flex my Chevy 2500. I've got new rims on it because if you watched our old video, my freaking rims exploded off with the camper on. That was the truck's fault, not the camper. But when the camper is on this thing, it barely flexes at all. So if you have a 2500 and your camper's under 2,000 pounds, I assume this would be the same for most trucks. Don't quote me on it. It's really easy to drive with. It can go kind of like on logging roads. I wouldn't go like off-road, but I've taken it down some like decently potholy roads without any issues at all. And I don't have airbags in this thing either. So it's light. I like that about it. The second thing I love about it, and that I think is really important when you're camping in general, is to have a decent amount of storage. This camper has quite a bit of storage. We've got these big things up here. We put our food up there. We've got a compartment. We've got this compartment where an oven should be, but we put our stuff there instead. We got drawers. We got this compartment. We got this compartment. This was our spice rack. Pretty sick. And then we've got this big area. So all in all, quite a bit of storage. I feel like we don't really run out of space in this thing. Like we've never been like, oh, we can't fit anything. And because it doesn't fit all the way up in my truck, you can actually shove some stuff in between this thing and my truck, which I don't even know if it's safe to have the camper not fully up to the back of the bed of your truck, but I did it anyway and it was fine. And we can throw our table and our griddle and stuff in there, which, yeah, it's just nice to have a little bit of extra space there, which I enjoy. So the third thing, as I said, I'm actually pretty stoked on this interior. Like it just looks good and it feels pretty homey in here. It's quite modern looking. A lot of this stuff is pretty jerry-rigged though. Like this looks sick from up top and then you realize it's like the worst thing ever like there. And then there's like death nails and screws sticking out in some places. But I mean, all in all, this thing looks pretty decent. And it just kind of feels nice to be in when you're camping. You feel like you're in like a little condo or something like that. Which maybe is like an oxymoron and counterproductive, but I like it. And one of the biggest bonuses of this thing is that it does have solar and 2 batteries. So I'm thinking if I were to keep this and convert a bunch of stuff, I could convert it completely to run off these batteries, get a fridge that could run off them, get a portable heater, and then I wouldn't have to worry about propane for the most part. Because these things should run for quite a while and power a fridge for, I would think, a day or 2. At least. Hey, look, another leak. Yeah, we definitely have some water coming in there. Sick, dude. That's one more for the cons. That's okay. That seems pretty, not too bad. There's not like, it's not rotting, so. So we've got two 12-volt batteries. There's an inverter so you can plug into it. And I've got a 100-watt solar panel up top. It's charging this thing right now. And it's kind of nice to have that. It's just nice to be able to go off grid and, you know, at least like turn your lights on. If half the things worked in here, I could power them as well. I think that would be something that I would really look for in a camper. I really like those new Scout campers because you can pretty much like run them completely off grid. I'm sure there's lots of different options like that, but I think that would be something for me that I'd really want in a camper, is to be able to just like go out into the woods for a few days and be, for the most part, functional. Another quick pro is this sink work. So I can use this pump, which it's winterized right now, or we can hook up to city water. So it's nice to have running water, obviously in a camper. It's like so important to have water. And last but not least, this bump in stereo system, actually kind of useless because it draws power and I can just play off a Bluetooth speaker, but it looks sick. Let it go, let it go. Oh, the sun came out. It's a miracle. Feeling thankful for that sun. It's a cold one in Vancouver. Or actually not in Vancouver, in like Surrey, but I don't like to say Surrey because people are scared of Surrey. It's like 0 degrees Celsius, which for the rest of Canada is like nothing, but we're just not as used to it here in Vancouver. We get scared of the cold. So those are the pros and cons. I'm just trying to decide, do we keep this thing or do we kind of upgrade to something a little bit different? One thing I have learned through just making these videos and having fun with this camper is that we definitely love this lifestyle. Having our home on the back of our truck, kind of upgrading from tent camping, which we did have a lot of last summer, to something like a truck camper is so much fun. And yes, the title of this video is why you should never buy an old truck camper, but I think there's actually a lot of reasons why someone might be perfectly suited for something like this. Somebody who's really good at fixing things and working on things. I'm just really trying to decide if it's worth putting work into something that does have some leaks, is kind of jerry-rigged, not properly wired, and has issues with some of the appliances. Do I spend a couple grand on this, or do I look for something different? And I'm sure a lot of you in the comments are pros and own some truck campers, so if you have any advice for a young buck like myself, it's much appreciated. But at the end of the day, it's just been a really great learning experience. It's been really fun making these videos and just sharing our adventures in the truck camper. Obviously, we're new to the whole YouTube thing, so it's just been a blast going out with Maddie, my wifey, and just having a really good time in this camper. So leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think. I'll have some developments hopefully in the next couple of weeks here on what's next for us. Are we gonna keep this camper, get a different one? I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. It's freaking cold here. It's too early to go camping. So until next time, thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys.